Welcome to the Be Progressive Show. It is Thursday night, February the 4th, and we're going to continue talking about some of the same things that we've been talking about. I wish something else would happen in politics because I'm tired of talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm tired of talking about the so-called election fraud crap that never happened. Just the same old stuff. Are we going to get rid of these QAnon politicians? Are we not? So tonight, I'll start the show off with some crying on Newsmax again, more so, about big tech censorship. And we're going to listen to these people be hypocrites is what we're going to do. So here we go.
All right, folks, welcome back. Finally, somebody standing up to big tech. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis yesterday announcing sweeping new regulations in his state to curb the online censorship that's been going on around this country, including mandatory opt-outs from content filters. The regulatory plan is the most aggressive in the country, and the Republican governor...
Wait. Did he just say mandatory content filter? Or let's hear that again. I want to make sure I heard him right, because I think he said that you could opt out of content filtering, and I think that's really bizarre.
Aggressive in the country, and the Republican governor has bipartisan support there. Joining me now is Trish Regan. She is host of the Trish on around this country state to curb the online censorship that's been going on around this country, including mandatory opt-outs from content filters. The regulatory
opt-out from content. That's going to be interesting. How are you going to tell a private business that?
Plan is the most aggressive in the country, and the Republican governor has bipartisan support there. Joining me now is Trish Regan. She is host of the Trish Regan Intel podcast. Trish, always great to see you. Since Congress failed to rein in monopolies, glad to see a conservative governor in Florida actually doing so. What do you think?
Look, I'd agree with you. So the problem here is that these tech companies have gotten way too big. I mean, way too big. I mean, Facebook is the only game in town, right? Google has made it really hard for any competitors to get into these spaces. So consequently, you only have so many outlets for social media. And if you want to have your message be heard, you need to be on those platforms. And so that's where I sort of come out at this, or come down on this, I would say, Chris, is the fact that these companies are monopolies. Now, there's the flip side that's, we shouldn't have government interfering in business. And I get that. But the problem we now have is that our businesses have gotten so big that they are monopolies, that they are interfering in our personal life. Right. And if you're a politician who's campaigning in Florida and Google doesn't like your party or what you stand for, and they can suddenly come in and say, OK, we're going to block access, or on Facebook, we're going to block access, or Twitter, we're going to block access. Well, then that really doesn't.
I just have to point out here that none of this would be being discussed right now if, this whole Trump thing didn't happen and there wasn't, people calling for the insurrection and violence and all that. And none of it, let's say none of this Twitter crap happened, for the Republicans. And all of a sudden, everybody on the left, let's just shoe on the other foot kind of thing. This was all, let's just say that a bunch of people on the left spewed a bunch of Antifa, let's say a bunch of Antifa people spewed a bunch of crap on Twitter, and it was violent, and it called for riots and all this kind of stuff. Do you think these people would be doing the same segment right now, talking about how we need to break up the social media companies, which is a valid argument on that? I'm not arguing against the fact that maybe these companies need to be broken up. I'm not arguing that point. What I'm saying here is this is a clutching of pearls, when that's not at all what they care about. They just care that they can't spew their hate speech anymore, and their hate speech has finally became completely mainstream with the Republican Party. Therefore, it appears as if the Republican Party is being censored as a whole, when in reality it's just that they moved their, the Overton window has been moved so far to the right that the now mainstream media is, or mainstream Republican narrative is pretty much hate speech. And a large number of Republicans are being removed from social media. Businesses are not doing, having anything to do with them. And there's, banks are going to be moving away from Donald Trump. It's because you've made your brand toxic and you followed a guy who was a complete idiot and just failed all over himself, and then tried to basically perform a coup. And you wonder why society, or what you're calling these social media companies, I've heard conservatives refer to the social media companies now as town halls for, in society, and therefore they should be, there should be complete and absolute free speech. Well, that's an argument we can have. It's another argument we can have about breaking up the size of Google and Facebook, and I'm all about that. I'm on your side on that one. But coming out here and clutching your pearls about all this because you think you think all of these social media companies are left wing. That's the problem. You think that the social media companies, or the businesses that are refusing to do business with you now, and that these are all left wing companies. And just because they were, they're ran by Zuckerberg or Jack Dorsey or whatever, and you think these people are like California liberals or whatever, but I guarantee you one thing, that money isn't more important to them than anything else. And so, going in and saying that they're all leftists and that's why they want to stop the Republicans, and that's really not the case, because the less people that you have, the less money that you make. It doesn't make any sense to me. They're not after the Republican Party because they're just bipartisan hacks that want to attack the Republican Party. They're doing it because you're inciting violence. They're doing it because your message is very toxic. It is very anti-American in terms of spreading misinformation about the election and how that it was a fraud, and you pushed all of these things that cause problems. You denied COVID. You pushed anti-COVID stuff. You pushed anti-voting. Like misinformation as far as like there were people on Twitter saying that certain areas there had been in heavy Democratic areas, areas where you go to vote, the polls were no longer there, and that they had moved them. And then in reality, that wasn't the case at all. They were just trying to get people to not, and that's not like a government party or a government administration or anything that did that tweet. That was just people that did that tweet. But those kinds of things, like suppressing votes or interfering with an election or interfering with the pandemic and pushing, false narratives about that. And then, this Trish here is on a Newsmax, is a company that is currently being threatened to be sued for $1 billion because of their lies. And those are the same kinds of lies that are getting people banned on social media. So it's not that we're just anti-Republican because we're on the left, or we're banning you or what. It's like, no, it's your messaging. Democrats did not make you say those things, and they didn't make you do those things. They didn't make you do an insurrection. So I don't really want to hear, any more of this. It's like, sure, you want to break up the social media companies, let's do it. I'm fine with that. But let's not say that this is all happening to poor Republicans because they're just partisan and they just want to get, not hear your voice. And I'm also real sick and tired of the like, how can we ever get our message out? We're on Fox News every night, millions of fucking people. Yeah, you can get your message out just like you are right now, just like you would on Fox News or any other, news show. It's, sorry. You want to spew that crap, that's what happens. But let's see what else happens here.
Enable you to have a fair campaign because you can't reach everyone. So I think this is pretty creative. We'll see how it holds up in court. I suspect that the tech companies are going to argue that this is, their freedom to be able to decide what goes on their platforms. But nonetheless, it's going to bring this whole issue of whether or not these are monopolies, and I believe they are, to a head.
No kidding. I'm with you. It's one thing to compete with somebody. It's another thing to use your monopoly position to keep them out of the market, to stop them from competing with you. One is American, one is anti-American, and that's how I feel about this. Speaking of anti-American, I want to play this soundbite for you. This is Amanda Ensing. I don't pretend to know this world, but she's a beauty influencer, and she came onto the show yesterday. It seems Sephora gave her the boot because she's a Latina conservative who supported President Trump. And this is what she told us. Watch.
Do they think that conservatives don't wear makeup? You know, when did makeup become political? Do they think that conservatives don't deserve their makeup? So, you know, we'll happily take our money elsewhere. But I would like them to say it with their chest, like say you don't want conservative dollars instead of just saying you do. But then clearly, you know, they're painting a very different story in a lot of our opinions.
So what about that, Trish? Do you think that these companies can make it with just liberal dollars? Can they make a profit and flourish with only liberals supporting them?
So they're leaving out half the country, right? That's what you're telling me. Look,
No,
conservatives.
I wouldn't really say conservative and on about censorship. I don't know who that person was, who that girl is, but I'm sure she said something pretty awful online or has done something that is, you know, caused this. These things aren't just happening, you know. They're not just happening because they're, you know, conservatives and we're attacking them. These companies are attacking them. It's just, man, cry me a river with your fucking, like, victimhood all the time. I mean, the right is just, they call the left snowflakes, and all they do is cry about victim. They're always a victim. You know, like it's like Christianity and Christians, always a victim. You know, it's like their religion's being oppressed when their religion's like 80% of the religion in the United States, and I can't drive 2 feet in anywhere in this country without seeing one of their churches. You know, it's like you're not oppressed. You're not victims. So let's just stop acting like you're a victim. Maybe change your messaging. Maybe stop being toxic. Maybe stop buying into dumb cult leaders that led you where you are now. You know, maybe do that. Maybe that'll help you out. So, I don't know. Anyway, we're going to move on. Speaking of social media companies, you know, Parler is now in a tailspin because of all of what happened. And I guess the board has fired their CEO without reason. And he goes to say that, let me see, his name is Jason, I do believe. Yeah, his name was Jason Matz. And he said the company removed him as CEO, but he did not cite a specific reason. Matt said conservative donor Rebecca Mercer, who controls Parler's board, immediately terminated his position on Friday. Now, if you want to look into the Mercer family, they are massive Donald Trump supporters, and they owe in IRS somewhere around $5 to $6 billion in back taxes. So I hope now that Biden comes out and has the IRS actually take these people to task and do that. But I just read an article about the Mercers. So I did not, quote, I did not participate in this decision, Matt's 27, who is based in Henderson, Nevada, wrote in a statement. This has been a true American dream, an idea from a living room to a company of considerable value, Matt said in the statement. I'm not saying goodbye, just so long for now. So you're asking yourself, why did they remove him? Okay, well, let's see. Says that Matt said after the attack on the Capitol, he felt that the site had to step up its content policing. No shit. Quote, to me, it was a clear indication of what could happen if we didn't change the ways we're being done. End quote. Parler did not return a request for comment. Attempts to reach Mercer for comment were not successful. In recent months, Parler shot up in popularity for its more lax approach to online speech. And everybody that got banned on Twitter went to Parler if they were in conservative circles. But basically the CEO was like, you know, hey, wait a minute. Maybe, you know, I get we're all about like free speech and being racist openly and stuff. And that's kind of the point. But like, maybe we should dial back a little bit of the like direct threats for violence and the, you know, those kinds of things. And didn't even give the man a reason. They just fired him. So if that tells you anything about Parler, then there you go. So moving on here, I just thought that was a funny story. Yeah, we were talking about taxes too the other day, and this is just I couldn't even stomach to like watch all of this, because basically what you're going to hear Larry Kudlow, of course it's Kudlow, who is an absolute idiot, and we're going to let him tell you that taxing the rich is bad for the country and bad for the little guy. So let's listen to a little bit more on here.
This is a
we've
real
gotta have an
B&H
ad.
customer story.
Never not
Check.
an ad, right?
The tax the rich movement continues to pick up steam under the Biden administration and democratically controlled Congress, while critics are wondering how they'll pay for the nearly $2 trillion in new stimulus. Senator Elizabeth Warren is ready to introduce a wealth tax on those making more than $50.
We're worried about paying that stimulus bill, but we didn't give two shits about that $1 trillion tax cut for the rich that Trump passed.
$50 million a year. Now, these ideas are promoted as ways to end massive income inequality in America. But think about this. The cities and states with the highest taxes on rich people also have the highest inequality. Joining me now, what it all means for this economy, former U.S. National Economic Council Director Larry Kudlow. All right, Larry, so if high taxes on the rich don't work locally, what is the real reason these things are being rammed through nationally?
Well, I don't know about the ram through part, Charles. Let's wait and see. But, you know, this is kind of a far left battle cry. Tax the rich. Rich people don't pay enough.
Yeah, that's not far left at all. That's just regular left, like mainstream. That's not extremist at all.
It's just not true, by the way. Incidentally,
It's
just for some
completely true.
context, a dozen or more countries in Europe tried a wealth tax over the past 10 or 15 years. It never worked. They didn't get more revenues. There was no greater equality, and growth was slowed. So most of them, almost all of them, repealed the wealth tax, including France. Now, let me make this point, which Senator Warren will not agree. I'm sorry. However, investment, capital investment, is the worker's best friend. Those people in the upper brackets, you're talking what, 40, 50 million, 2% tax rising to 6% tax, whatever. Those are mostly investment income people, okay? They're the ones that start new businesses or help existing businesses, okay? They're the worker's best friend.
Yeah. It's trickle down economics is what's being said here. But let's go back to the 1950s and 60s, because in the 1950s and 60s, that's when the Republicans consider the good old days, right? That's really, kind of what they, let's go back to the good old days, back when we can be racist and we can, be male chauvinist and slap women around and women stay home and keep their mouth shut. And that's the good old days to the Republican Party. But what was the tax rate back then in the good old days? When they say that the economy was the greatest. And coming out of war in the 50s and the 60s, the economy was booming in the United States. Well, what was the top tax rate for the wealthy back then? Oh, that's right. It was 91%. 91%. It's not even close to that now. Not even close to that now. But there are loopholes. There are ways to get around it. There's no way that a company that like Amazon can end up not paying any taxes when they are one of the largest retailer in the world probably now. No taxes. Donald Trump makes millions of dollars, $750 in taxes. So, if you want to go back to the good old days, I'm fine with going back to the good old days because it was 91% taxes. The top tax rate now is what, 43% something, 44, I think maybe 43. It was 91 back then. So I don't want to hear this Reagan trickle down economy bullshit, the same old tripe that you've just, it's like you're a broken record. You can't think or do anything other than that. That's all the Republican Party does. Taxing the rich is bad for little guys, and that there should be absolutely no regulation, and we should be able to fucking do whatever we want. And it's just not gonna fly, man. That shit's done. We're not doing that anymore. So
He showed this in the Trump
spread
years.
your lies
We
all you
cut
want.
business taxes and individual taxes. Guess what? The investment capital put in, because it was cheaper on a tax basis, improved productivity, improved real wages, and improved worker salaries and family incomes for the first.
Yeah, literally none of that is true. Anything that the Trump tax cuts did for middle class were just, very very small items, and a lot of those expired You know, it was only for a while. All that the Trump tax cuts was for the wealthy. And, you know, we're not even going to kid around with it. You know, you can bring on all the white old men in suits you want to tell us that, you know, taxing the rich is bad, but I'm sorry, you're just wrong. And it's been wrong for a long time. We're calling for a $15 minimum wage in 2021 when if you would have paced minimum wage with inflation and paced minimum wage with productivity, then we should be, the average minimum wage in this country should be in the $20 to $22 an hour range right now. And we are still at $7.25, I do believe, federally. Come on. You know, things are going to get bad for the rich. And it's only the rich's fault as to why things are going to get really bad for them. Because they've been rigging this system the whole time. And they've been, you know, just raping and pillaging the little people. And it's going to get them. There are going to be consequences. And we're already seeing it. You know, we shut down a hedge fund worth $13 billion. And a ragtag group of, in a Reddit subreddit did it. You know? So we're going to start fighting back, and you know, the rich people can go on Fox News Business all they want and cry all they want, but you're going to get taxed more, and you're going to, you know, or, you know, that's the thing. He says that in this video, he says that, you know, the rich pay like 40% of all taxes or whatever. Just think of how much that would actually be if all of those people hadn't used massive loopholes, you know? I mean, if you're a corporation, you literally hire entire firms accounting firms to find you these loopholes, to not pay any taxes. You move your headquarters to states with the lowest taxes, or you move them out of the country. So if the rich paid the fair share, even with the percentage of taxes now, and didn't use the loopholes, then we may not even be anywhere close to the problem that we're having now. But the problem is, it doesn't really matter what you set the fucking tax rate at. You could set it at 40, you could set it at 90. These people are going to have enough money and influence with politicians that they were going to be able to sway and get loopholes and do whatever they have to do to not pay their fair share. The Republican motto should be, we don't pay our fair share. That's it. And we want everybody else to pay their fair share and our fair share, and we just want to collect the money. So, and you know, I'm tired of this crap. You know, Kudlow's an idiot. He's always been an idiot. But coming on and 2021 and spraying, you know, Reaganomics kind of just shut the fuck up, man. Nobody wants to hear that shit. You know, I'm sorry, you're just an idiot. The facts aren't on your side. The math is not on your side. You are going to have to eventually just start paying your taxes. But I know that's a Republican hobby, is figuring out how to not pay taxes, but you're going to have to do it, you anti-American pieces of dog shit. So just thought I should tell you that. Let's see. And I was talking about the Mercers. The Mercers installed Trump and incited an insurrection because they won't pay their $7 billion tax bill. So there's, you know, this going around that the Robert Mercer money that's owed is pretty significant, you know, probably the most in the country. And they were big Trump donors trying to get him, you know, to get him off of that. And I don't think that's going to work for them. So I saw that, but I was going to just point it out real quick. Let's see here. Oh, yes. We have, I'll play the ad first. The Lincoln Project has now launched a new ad, and man, say what you want about the Lincoln Project. I'm not real big fans of them anyway, because they're Republicans at the heart, and their policies are still not anywhere near what we need them to be, but they are damn good at making a political ad. And this one is attacking the whole seditionist crew, and I'll play this for everybody here. This is great.
It had never been done before. A plan so crazy it just might work. Stir a bunch of frat boys and Nazi real estate agents into invading the Capitol, overthrow a democracy, and if it fails, pretend it never happened. But it would take one hell of a team to pull it off. Drawn from the fetid swamps across America, they are the Squalid. Kevin McCarthy, the leader.
And President Trump won this election, so everyone who's listening, do not be quiet. Do not be silent about this.
Mo Brooks, the co-conspirator.
Today is the day American patriots start taking down names and kicking ass.
Lauren Boebert, logistics.
Well, I'm certainly not indulging in conspiracy theories that said that I was a part of the attack on our nation's capital.
Ted Cruz, the money man.
Each of you look around, the men and women that are gathered here, you are patriots.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, the brains.
Representatives and senators can be kicked out, and it's a crime punishable by death.
Matt Gaetz, the revisionist.
But make no mistake, the left in America has incited far more political violence than the right.
Josh Hawley, the little bitch.
We do need an investigation into irregularities, fraud. We do need election security reform.
Rick Scott, American Voldemort.
We've got to figure this out. We've got to be able to prevent this from, I don't know if anything will happen with this election, but clearly we can't let this go on for the next election.
Okay. Jim Jordan, the cheerleader.
I don't know how you can ever convince me that President Trump didn't actually win this thing based on all the things you see, the 11 million more votes. He won 19 to 20 bellwether counties. He won Ohio by 8, Iowa by 8, Florida by 3. Somehow doesn't come.
And Tommy Tuberville denies any knowledge of having planned this whole thing at the Trump Hotel on January 5th.
You know, our government wasn't set up for one group to have all three branches of government. It wasn't set up that way. Or three branches, the House, the Senate, and the executive.
They did their damnedest to steal your democracy, and there's not much stopping them from trying again. Oh yeah, except elections. Don't forget what they did. Remember their names, and then vote these seditious shit trumpets out. Donco Films brings you The Squalid.
Yep. You may not like them, and I'm not a big fan of them either. But boy, can they put together an ad. I love when they're like, Josh Hawley, the little bitch. That was good. Good stuff. So, Rudy Giuliani is in a little spat with the Lincoln Project right now. Says he responds to the Lincoln Project's litigation threat. I'm writing them a letter back to tell them I will not be responding to their letter. Moron. You're so dumb. So the Lincoln Project, the anti-Trump group that made national headlines over the last few days because its co-founder, John Weaver, was accused of serially harassing young men online. It's said that recently demanded through attorneys that Giuliani preserve all relevant documents regarding alleged false and defamatory statements made against the organization. Giuliani, it turns out, was on the receiving end of at least one other demand letter recently. A $1 billion lawsuit against him soon followed. They are moving forward with the Rudy Giuliani lawsuit. So during an appearance on pardoned former Trump chief strategist Steve Bannon's War Room podcast, Giuliani explained that they would respond to the Lincoln Project by saying he will not respond. Quote, well, here's what I'm doing. I'm writing them a letter back and telling them I will not respond to their letter because they make this one rather sketchy defamatory allegation about a tort that I committed. I counted 4 that they committed in their letter, Giuliani said. He then abstainably confirmed that he had already responded to the group's attorney in writing. So let's play a little bit of this.
Well, here's the point, what I'm doing. I'm writing him a letter back telling him that I will not respond to their letter because they make this one rather sketchy defamatory allegation of tort that I committed. I counted 4 that they did in their letter. So I wrote back to him, son, I represented Dow Jones, Barron's, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Daily News. I did this for a living. And you made a classic mistake. At the very end, well.
I'm not real sure what classic mistake they made, but we've saw in the last few months just exactly how good of a lawyer you really are. So now I'm interested to see those other cases that you represented, because so that's going to be interesting. I love to see the right going after the right, and that's what we have here. So let's hope that little spat continues. Yeah, the last thing we're going to talk about, I have like a couple other things here. We were talking yesterday that we didn't know whether or not Marjorie Taylor Greene was going to be reprimanded by McCarthy. The Democrats reached out and said that they told McCarthy that he needed to remove her, the Republican Party needed to remove her from her committee assignments, which I think is just the Education Committee, which she needs to be the furthest thing from. But that's all the Democrats asked, and they're like, if you don't do it, then we're going to vote and do it ourselves. And so this was the response by McCarthy to that. I know this is really light, so I'll just quickly read this. It says, quote, past comments from and endorsed by Marjorie Taylor Greene on school shootings, political violence, anti-Semitic conspiracy theories do not represent the values or beliefs of the Republican Conference. I condemn those comments unequivocally. I condemn them in the past. I continue to condemn them today. The House condemned QAnon last Congress and continues to do so today. Quote, I made this clear to Marjorie when we met. I also made clear that as a member of Congress, we have a responsibility to hold ourselves to a higher standard than how she presented herself as a private citizen. Her past comments now have much greater meaning. Marjorie recognized this in our conversation. I told her, I hold her to her word as well as her actions going forward. So basically, he continues to go on, but it's, no, we're not going to do anything. I slapped her wrist. She won't do it again, which is bullshit. Next week she'll be saying something crazy, that leftist, Satanist, cabal has installed a new laser on the moon that's now shooting Republicans or something. But so he is now saying, I'm not going to do anything about it. She is going to be a good girl from now on, which is not true. So the Democrats are going to go ahead and remove her themselves. They need 60 votes, and they can probably get it. But, that's all we're going to get. And as I talked about the other day, there's the argument about what we do with somebody like her. She is not only bordering on, but has stepped over that border when it comes to inciting violence and conduct unbecoming of a House representative. I mean, it's just cut and dry. There's no spin. The words came out of her mouth on video, so you can't spin that. And I know Kevin McCarthy is scared because, her fringe beliefs are not fringe. They are the Republican mainstream. And so if he goes against her, then that's going against his voters, So he's not going to do anything. The Democrats will have to do it themselves. But that was the big argument, was do we get rid of her, or do we just let her be in Congress and be a clown show? And we can say, look what the Republicans, look, that's a Republican. She's a clown dumbass that believes in Jewish space lasers. That's one argument. And and maybe that's a good argument as long as she keeps her mouth shut. But the other argument is we need to get rid of her. The things that she's done and said have already crossed the line, and we should remove her. I'm really for removing her. I really am. I see where they're going with, keep her in, and that could be useful, but at this point, like, everybody knows that the Republican Party is a clown show as it is. There's enough idiots on that side that we don't need a Marjorie Taylor Greene or a Lauren Boebert to point to. There's plenty on that side that are equally as bad as them. So, I don't know. I'm kind of torn on it. I really would like, I don't think, the thing that bothers me and that makes me lean more toward getting rid of her is the fact that we're going to remove her from a committee. Not that she was going to actually do any work. She's not smart enough to do anything. She wasn't actually going to do anything on that committee. But you're basically just saying, okay, I'm going to take away this one responsibility of your job, but you're still going to get paid your $174,000. That's what bothers me the most. If I fucked up at my job and they took responsibilities away from me because I couldn't do my job, then they wouldn't just continue to, let me sit and do nothing. and pay me, they would either fire me or they would, force me to do these responsibilities that I was hired to do. And so I just think that all you're doing is helping Marjorie Taylor Greene by removing her, because then she doesn't fucking have to do anything at all anyway. And I don't know. I'm kind of torn on it, but that's, this is where we're at. So I think that she probably will be removed from the committee, and then that'll be the end of it. And then they'll say if you even raise a peep again with that kind of crazy Jewish space laser crap, then you're gone. That's really probably what'll end up happening. So the last quick story, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I just thought this was kind of funny. In Iowa, the Republican House Speaker, Pat Grassley, has repeatedly said this year that he can't require lawmakers to wear masks on the floor, and he basically lets people not wear masks. And so one of the Democratic reps basically wore jeans into the House because that is against dress code, and said, so you're going to throw me out for wearing a pair of jeans, it's just a piece of clothing like a mask, and making that argument just made him look like a complete fool. And he continued steadfast to say that she could not wear her jeans and he could not force the mask. And, just a fucking mask hole. It's like the rest of these Republicans. Anyway, folks, it's about that time. We'll wrap it up. So thanks for joining me here tonight. Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time is the live show. Please like, subscribe, comment, share. All those things are greatly appreciated. So I am Brandon Neal, and this is the Be Progressive Show. We will see you tomorrow.